Welcome to Black Girls Can Talk, the podcast where we dive into real, unfiltered conversations about what it means to be a Black woman in today's world. I'm your host, Dr. DeJaneil McCree, founder of Black Girls Can Talk. And here, we're creating a space where we can unpack everything from culture and beauty trends to mental health and the joys and challenges of Black womanhood. Whether you're here for the tea or looking for deep discussions, you're in the right place. So grab your seat at the table and let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Black Girls Can Talk podcast, where we uplift and share the stories of Black women. Today, we're going to get into Chapter 3, Subtle Acts of Exclusion. So I want to start off, as always, by reading the opening quote of the chapter. Won't it be wonderful when Black history and Native American history and Jewish history and all of U.S. history is taught from one book, just U.S. history? And that was said by Maya Angelou. If you're unfamiliar with the term subtle acts of exclusions, that may be because you've heard it termed otherwise as microaggressions. Doctors Tiffany Jana, I hope I'm saying that right, and Michael Barron, hopefully I'm saying that right as well, co-authors of Subtle Acts of Exclusion, How to Understand, Identify, and Stop Microaggressions, rebrands the term microaggressions as subtle acts of exclusion. Let's talk about the intent behind rebranding this term. It is to introduce a less hostile and straightforward way to better understand what microaggressions are. So let's take a look at what that means. Whether it's being overlooked in your workplace, whether that's having your hair touched without your permission, okay, we've all been there, or being the only Black woman in the room, these small encounters have a big impact. Now, y'all know I'm a researcher, so I have to hit you with some straight facts and statistics, so we're going to just get it out the gates here. First one, Black women are interrupted in meetings at 2.5 times the rate as their white counterparts. And that's by Harvard Business Review. More than 60% of Black women report experiencing racial microaggressions in professional settings. Hair discrimination remains legal in many states. And child, I don't even know what's about to happen with the state of the world, the U.S., anyway, disproportionately affecting Black women in schools and workplaces. So let's get into the hair for a second, because as a Black woman, most of us, if not all of us, have had some type of microaggression occur as it relates to our hair. So I personally straightened my hair. I've never had a perm. Don't know what that's about. Okay, amen. But I straightened my hair from the time that I was young all the way up into I went natural in 2015. So a little bit over a decade ago. But I felt like I had to wear my hair straightened, especially I've discussed before. I went to a PWI. So I just felt like I had to be on my P's and Q's. Let's go back to Detroit. I felt like I always had to look a certain way. I remember the first week being on campus, my best friend and I, who were both from Detroit, we would literally like dress up to go to class. We would be in our true religions. Like we would honestly be overdoing it because we got to class and everybody had sweats on. It's just like, oh, okay. And I want to say it's not a bad thing to always be on your P's and Q's, right? But it could be a bad thing when you're doing it because of external influences internally impacting you, right? So again, freshman year of college, I will never forget every Sunday faithfully I got my hair straightened to the point where when my hair wasn't done, people would be like, wait a minute. What's going on with her? Is she okay? Is she depressed? Like something is awry because my girl does not show up like this. She does not look like this. And so in 2015, I just remember being like, you know what? I don't feel like straightening my hair today. Now, at that time, the natural hair care scene was popping and still is. So it was more acceptable, quote unquote, for me to wear my hair natural. But I still was just like, I can't go natural. Like, again, thinking about all these places and spaces I would be in. And unfortunately, also just thinking through the notion that someone would probably asked me, was I wearing a wig? Like, no, my hair has actually been curly since I was born. Okay. But we've all had someone ask us, is that yours? Or one and just, I truly believe it is absolutely absurd to touch anybody's anything without, let's clear this up. So sometimes even when you ask, it's just like one of those questions you shouldn't ask. Because if you were like, I don't know what other races do. I can only speak to being Black, right? But do you ask your counterparts to touch their hair? I just think it's a very weird thing to do anyway. Like, who wants to play in someone else's hair? I don't know. Weird to me. So for those who may be unfamiliar with what microaggressions are or maybe not recognize them, I've talked about before how I was so used to them that I didn't even recognize that they were occurring, right? Like, they just became so embedded in my everyday world, in my everyday experiences, that I couldn't tell the difference. So let's go through some examples of microaggressions or subtle acts of exclusion. So let's talk about the workplace first. Being talked over in meetings. You're in the meeting because they want to hear from you, or so you think, right? But you're either being ignored or not being recognized until someone else, a colleague of yours, says the same thing. Most times the colleague is of the opposite race, but sometimes someone else within your race will speak up for you. But unfortunately, it is unheard until they said it, right? I know that's one that grinds my gears, increases my forces. Like, oh, I really, really, I really, really resonate with that one. So being mistaken for someone in a lower status role, are you the intern? Someone assuming that you're not in a position of leadership, or do not hold the values that you actually hold, right? I actually was in the loft, if you are familiar with what that story is, looking for something. We had men's night, shout out to the men. We had men's night at church last night. And so last minute, they wanted all the women who were serving to wear Black. And I just went into the store and I'm like, okay, let me look for something Black really quick. Someone walked up to me and said, are your dressing rooms open? And it was like, I don't even look like I work here. Like, if you work somewhere, you're probably like dressed up. Like, I had on some like high top Jordan ones. I had on like a sweater and some leggings. Like, girl, I don't work here, and I don't work here. And unfortunately, that lady was not of an opposite race, and she was Black. And she was like, "Oh, you're so pretty that you look like you could." And thank God and thank the Holy Spirit, because I just said, "Oh, thank you so much," and kept it moving. But the old me would have been like, "Girl, what?" Because stop playing with me. But it's moments like that where I think people are so surprised. People that don't know me, I would say, are so surprised to know what I do for a living, because they wouldn't expect it, because I'm so unserious. I'm always joking. I'm always laughing. I just like to enjoy life, right? So I do serious things all day long. I use my brain a lot at work. I don't want to have to do that all the time. And I like mindless activity sometimes. So I think people see me in that space and then hear what I do for a living. They're like, what, you? Like, yes, me. But anyway, I digress, y'all. Let's get into hair and appearance. So unsolicited comments, again, my favorite unfavorite one is that your real hair. Every time I straighten my hair, people ask me that. And they used to ask me even when I was not natural, right? Is that your real hair? Or touching our hair without having consent, being told that natural hairstyles aren't polished enough or are unprofessional in certain settings. And it's just like, who made up these rules? How can you tell me that I can't wear my hair that grows out of my head in whatever space that I'm in? That's absolutely absurd to me. So language and intelligence assumptions. Y'all, another one of my favorite unfavorites. You are so articulate. That one right there. Because am I not supposed to be? I will never forget someone saying that to me at my first professional, well, I won't say first professional, but my first degree job, if that makes sense. So the first time I actually used my degree 4 years later, um, and was in my big girl job, right? And I presented to a councilwoman and the CEO of the organization, all of these different people. And when I was done, one of my colleagues pulled me aside and said, "That was really good. You're so articulate. You're," and I was just like, I went to a very, very good, a Big Ten school. If you know, you know. Come on. Um, I I went to private school. Like, why wouldn't I be articulate? And let's skip all of that, because regardless of all of that, all of my privileges, I still hold the same degree that you do. And in matter of fact, she may have had a master's. I don't believe so. But either way, I was in school at the time for my master's. So it's like, why wouldn't I be articulate? The unfortunate part was the assumption, because not only because I was young, but because I was Black and holding a role like this, that I wouldn't be. And that is something that we have to stop doing, y'all. Okay. Next one. So, assuming Black women are aggressive or angry when they express confidence or disagreement. I talked about this already in chapter 2. We're not going to go back. We're not going to go back. God brought us from there so we can move forward. Amen. But that one, that one, that one, y'all. But with that one, maybe we just need to start understanding why someone feels the way that they do. And that starts by asking them questions. What happened? You know, is there anything I can do to help? Some of those things can kind of bring that anger down, because a lot of the times we are angry or come off that way because we aren't being heard and we're not being listened to. So make sure that we're asking questions to someone who is having a moment and having a time, okay? And lastly, y'all know that I'm in healthcare. I have to talk about healthcare discrimination. Having pain dismissed or symptoms downplayed in medical settings. I've heard before, I won't say who said it, I've heard before that Black women overdo it, right? Um, and I hate that notion, and I'm going to use that word because who's to say that someone is overdoing, especially their pain levels, right? Even if that's a feeling of yours, just you might want to tuck that one tight. You might not want to say that aloud or tell that to someone else, because we cannot feel what someone else is feeling, right? We may be able to empathize with them. May be able to even sympathize with them, but we cannot crawl into their body and see how they feel. So for anyone to say that, oh, she's just being dramatic, I think that that is one of the craziest things in the world to me, especially as a healthcare professional whose sole job is to take care of someone. So we have to get rid of healthcare discrimination in medical settings. Another one is assumptions about socioeconomic status. So I think that, again, as a healthcare professional, you should be asking someone, maybe not, do you have insurance, but maybe changing that up to ask the question differently instead. So maybe asking, what who is your insurance carrier or provider, right? That's asking it in a different way. And then that person can then tell you that they don't have insurance or it lapsed or whatever have you. But we don't want to just assume that someone doesn't have insurance because of how they present. They could have Blue Cross, they could have better health insurance than you do, right? Or they could have Medicaid, state insurance. Like, either way, you don't want to assume based off of, again, how someone looks when they walk up, right? Their outward appearance, that they don't have healthcare insurance. So really quickly, let's get into how these subtle acts of exclusion impact mental health. Because I told y'all before, I'm a behavioral scientist. Mental health is a large, large part of my world, and it matters. It matters. So let's talk about how constant microaggressions lead to stress. It leads to anxiety. It leads to emotional exhaustion. It is exhausting to constantly experience microaggressions and have to combat them. It is truly exhausting and draining. You often have to ask yourself, am I overreacting? You begin to doubt yourself because of these encounters. So there's a mental burden of constantly second guessing yourself and your experiences. Again, because someone may say to you, oh, you're overreacting, it's not a big deal, they didn't mean it like that. Basically, they're just dismissing how you feel. They're dismissing your take on things and you telling them like, no, I read the room, and that's what I believe was meant, right? There's a mental burden associated with that. So I had talked a little bit about confidence before. It impacts your self-worth and your self-confidence, and that comes from self. But unfortunately, there are external influences that impact our self-worth and self-confidence as well. So repeated invalidation can make Black women doubt their abilities or feel invisible, feeling like we have to prove ourselves more than anyone else in the room just to be taken seriously. And let's talk about, add this to the section about workplaces. Sorry. So career advancement, being passed over for promotions, having to work twice as hard as someone else, and burnout from code switching. It is a task and a gift and ability to be able to code switch. I code switch so often that I don't even realize that I'm doing it at this point. But what I found now is that my code switching has actually taken on the reverse. Now I'm code switching to where I'm showing up as myself. I can still sound intelligent. I can still use the same language, but maybe trickling in some big words, as they say, right? Like, so you know that I'm intelligent, but I'm just showing up as my true self. I talk how I talk, and I don't want to change that for anybody, and I don't have to. Now, I will hold back. If you're talking to your friends, that's a different type of conversation, and you may say things in a different way, right? I may hold back in that way, but I'm not code switching or completely switching up who I am any longer. So the bottom line is that subtle acts of exclusion may not seem big enough to call out, but their repeated impact is profound. Black women are constantly forced to navigate spaces that were never intended for us. So let's talk about how we can respond and advocate for change. So one of the things we want to do is ask a clarifying question. What was meant by that? What did you mean? This question forces that person to reflect on their response and think about what they meant by it, right? So use I statements to express impact. You want to say, I felt dismissed. I felt invalidated. I felt unheard, so that someone can feel that impact that it had on you specifically. I am a big I just think that I use humor. I'm just a comedian, okay? Let's call it what it is. I'm a comedian. So I use humor a lot, and I don't even really recognize it. I don't use it as a way to deflect. I just think that sometimes a joke is needed to lighten the mood. And again, as I've said before, I'm a little unserious. So I believe that sometimes you can use humor to redirect something, right? So one of my favorite words is interesting. Interesting. And then I just switch to another topic or go back to the topic at hand, because what does my hair have to do with the tea in China? I'm so confused. Like, we are here to discuss data analyses. We're not here to talk about that. So let's let's just redirect, okay? And if it's something that truly resonated with you or sits on your heart, right? There's always an opportunity, if you want, and when you can find the appropriate time, to address it privately. So you can call someone out privately if calling them out publicly feels unsafe, or may you feel that it may be detrimental to either your career or just a plethora of things. So if you feel unsafe to call someone out in public, you can definitely always do so privately and just say, hey, I want to bring up something you said earlier. We were having a discussion about so and so, and I just wanted to ask you some questions, or just let them know that you wanted to talk a little bit about the meeting you all were in earlier, or whatever was said. So it's nothing wrong with pulling someone to the side, or messaging them, DMing them, whatever it is. Maybe not DM, but teamsing them or what have you, to just say, hey, do you have a second to chat? People love a quick chat. So just asking them to have a quick chat so you can get that off of your chest, because again, you don't want to burden yourself with what they said and internalize it. So you want to lift that off of you. It's also important to know when to walk away. If the environment is hostile or not receptive, protect your peace. I am a big component of protecting your peace. That is one of my favorite things to do, because I give so much to the world that I have to be full. I have to be full, and I can't let, again, these external factors come in and shift my mood, or take away from and drain me, right? Take away from doing what I'm called to do, doing what I'm supposed to be doing every day. So I protect my peace very, very often. Anyone who knows me knows that my phone lives on Do Not Disturb 365, 7 days a week. 7 days a week, because a lot of times people don't want anything. I'm in the middle of a meeting or teaching a class, and they're calling just to talk about the traffic. And so for me, that's protecting my peace, because I need to give my time to not to say that their conversation doesn't matter, but I need to give my time to other things in that moment. And sometimes my best friend, I don't respond to her sometimes, and she's like, well, I figured you were just taking a day. And was. It was. Amen. Sure was. I had to reset and recalibrate. So that is a component of protecting your peace. So knowing when to walk away, sometimes that's protecting your peace. You also want to set boundaries. So if you're uncomfortable with someone touching your hair, just say, hey, would you mind not doing that? If you keep getting cut off in a room, just say, excuse me, I wasn't done speaking, saying it in a polite way, right? Or if someone dismisses you or invalidates your feelings, just saying, that may have not have been your experience, but it was mine. And that kind of just closes out the conversation. So let's talk about how allies can create or help to create inclusive spaces. Let's start by acknowledging others' contributions in meetings. So maybe saying, I'd like to go back to so-and-so's point. Affirming someone to say, like, you know what, I agree with that, or that was a good take. Something as simple as that can help someone else feel validated. Calling out an exclusion when you see it. So maybe saying, let's give everyone a chance to speak, or calling out that specific person and say, oh, you didn't get a turn yet. Do you have any thoughts? Did you have any feedback that you want to provide? Again, that's helpful to making an inclusive environment, because that way everyone is literally included. Provide real opportunities for leadership and growth. So ensure that others, Black women especially, are involved in decision-making processes. Just giving some autonomy in that conversation to have some input and have their voice heard. Now, I know the state of the country is a bit in shambles, but we can still make sure that we are removing biases from hiring and promotion processes. We can make sure that we're creating clear policies against microaggressions, and we can have zero tolerance policies for repeated exclusionary behavior. True inclusion means calling out bias, making space for these voices, and actively supporting systemic change. So let's go back over some of our key takeaways. Subtle acts of exclusions are real, they're harmful, and they need to be addressed. Speaking up is important, but so is protecting your energy. Lastly, we must hold people accountable for the impact of their actions and not just the intent of them. So let's talk about some actionable takeaways. So remember to use I statements when we want to express how an exclusionary act made us feel. Speak up in the moment or privately if you feel that it's unsafe to do so when possible. and encourage workplaces and spaces in general to adopt anti-microaggression policies. I have a question and I need your engagement. Have you ever experienced a subtle act of exclusion or a microaggression? Share your story in the chat, tag us on social media. We want to hear from you. Make sure that if this episode resonated with you, that you're sharing it with someone else that may need to hear it as well. Let's make sure that we're keeping the conversation going. And don't forget to purchase the book, Black Girls Can Talk. It can be found on our website at blackgirlscantalk.com. That's it for today. I am Dr. McCree, and this is the Black Girls Can Talk podcast. Until next time, stay powerful. Love y'all. That's a wrap on today's episode of Black Girls Can Talk. I hope you felt heard, empowered, and inspired by today's conversation. If you love what you heard, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your girl. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at blackgirls_can talk to stay updated on future episodes and join the conversation online. Got something you want us to talk about or want to be a guest on our show? Hit us up on social media or visit our website at blackgirlscantalk.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, Black girls can talk, and we've got a lot to say. Until next time, stay powerful.